welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. Today is December the 29th, 2025. And today's topic, Minnesota's new flag resembles, question mark, a Somalian flag or some Somalian regional flags. And then you add in the reason of the change, and then it's like, oh man, the hypocrisy of that. Because see, Black Americans are told over and over and over again. Again, I'm not talking about sellouts and gullible ones and naive ones, right? But are told, hey, y'all get over the past, even though you've had black pain for centuries, right? And you've been in that country, been in the country of America for more than anybody else besides what we call supposedly white, right? Because you got some personnel that had used immigrationists and slid under the generic white banner, but that's a whole different topic. And then what we have, we call Native Americans, whatever, again, what that's supposed to mean. Because again, you had people that were paying $255, numbers of Anglo people to put themselves on whatever rolls to be called Native Americans. Which is interesting because when numbers of Black Americans say, wait a minute now, we also, the ones who related so saying, we also have some Black native in us. Well, you're pretendians. You see this constant drama, chaos, games toward Black Americans. And unfortunately, the coons and some sellouts and some naive ones, there's constant going all over the place toward Black Americans. While you got in this situation, the Tethers, and however immigration personnel and people playing, oh, they woke, but the masses of progenitor DEI is non-blacks, right? The game is so many places. And related to this topic, you have the little slick, little foxness of the Tethers. In this situation, there are numbers of Somalians that are fleers, all like some other ones in certain parts of Africa. But we're not talking about that topic today. So relating these particular Somalians that have infiltrated sectionality of Minnesota on that situation. And here's the crazy part about it, that in Minnesota, that the Somalian population is a smattering of a fly's buttocks, right, in the size. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? It's around about, I think it's about 1%, something like that, which is already a smattering in itself. But then you look at the overall amount of the 50 U.S. states and however territories, and you look at the collective amount of Somalians, they make up only around 0.01 or 0.02 overall percent of over 330 some plus million people in America. Let me put this again. The Somalian population, we talk about collectively, by the way, and it's only about a couple hundred, they only make up a couple of 100,000 or so in the entire US of 35 million demographics, right? Per se, right? Because we ain't gonna count how many other border break illegal immigrants and anyway, that's a whole different topic. 0.01, around 0.02-ish out of 35 million people. But how many of them have a audacity hatred toward Black Americans? Right? You see how that goes. So in this topic today of this particular flag on the left side, you see previous Minnesota flag, and then the change to the new Minnesota flag. It resembles a Somalian flag or our regional flag, a resemblance. No one said exactly, but there is a kind of resemblance. And then you're talking about Minnesota's the headquarters of various types of Somalians. And they are putting themselves in political positions. They are grabbing up in those little sleazy little tethered hands, the one it applies to. Because like anybody else, there are some good Somalian brothers and sisters, but those are small and comparable to the overall amount of Somalians who are sitting in higher places. They're only over here to get what they can get first. Now, they didn't earn the right to come to America as some other personnel too. We can get all that. But how many fled? All for the backbones, the fireness that the demonic fireness put upon Black Americans have helped so many black-skinned non-Black Americans, to my Tether versions, who fled. But they come to America and have the audacity to try to sit there and talk crazy toward Black Americans. Because first of all, they are jealous and they are filled with hatred because Black Americans have not had to flee. Oh, excuse me, Black Americans would have had by all rights to flee. For the political persecution by inhumane laws and policies, numbers of higher personnel sitting there picking off Black American people, boom, boom in churches with little girls in there, robbing males on plantations, robbing women on plantations, selling off Black Americans left and right for generations. And when that's finished, they sit there and go into Reconstruction and then peonage to Black Americans, still formal segregation of Black Americans. This is before people even thought about what Africans are. The Black Africans, the ones applies to, right? See the game, but American Blacks are told to get over the past. So this is how I look at this situation. I'm looking like, so you're talking about a population in Minnesota of Somalians that make up only around 0.01, maybe 0.02% of 335 million people in this country. And Minnesota is their headquarters. So they're putting themselves again in various political positions, various business entities, again, getting freebies and resources, right? But Black Americans are told to get over the past and work harder. And they sit there and just bypass like certain other type of tethering type people once applies to, right? Because they are being used to buffer out Black Americans and different little things, right? But this is what I'm looking at, this little game plan many of them trying to do. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen, because this also is not going to be a long show. Let me start with this particular one. This is the guy that did a post on this. Make sure you can see this. Volume looks good. Okay, Minnesota's new flag looks like it was designed in Somalia. When Minnesota dropped its old flag in favor of two tones of blue and long white star, designers said they were crafting a modern symbol for a modern state. First of all, Minnesota is not a modern state. Minnesota got their I guess they were admitted to the Union, the United States, only around 1850-ish. Huh? That was before the Civil War. That's not modern, by the way. And by the way, Somalia got their independence around 1960. That ain't no time. And then had all the Civil War that was tearing up various parts of Somalia in 1990s. That's still the remnants of Civil Warness. Still goes on Somalia. Still, you got various types of Somalian clan, tribe groups going on, corruption, however situation, resources dwindling. You got all these different things, and you got none of Somalians fleeing and have the nerve again try to talk crazy toward Black Americans as some other tethers try to do. They got some nerve doing supplies too. Let me start over. When Minnesota dropped its old flag in favor of two tones of blue and long white star, designers said they were crafting a modern symbol for a modern state. What they may not have anticipated is how deeply the optics of that design would resonate, and not in a good way, with a growing segment of Minnesotans scroll through images of Somali regional flags, Puntland, Gamandug, I guess, Khartoum, I'm guessing, and the resemblance is striking. Same blues, same solitary star, kind of, sort of, For many, it's more than a visual coincidence. It's a reflection of how they feel the state has changed. You mean more pro immigrationists, like some other states, doing sanctuary cityness as well. Minnesota is home to the largest Somali diaspora in the U.S. Oh, they make sure not to play, oh, they black. No, they're Somalian or they're clan Somalian tribe, right? See, out in the front, they sit there and do they'll do maybe some pseudo black kind of sort of, and other times they make sure to take we're Somalian, and other times they'll sit there and tell you, no, we're not just generic Somalian, we are of this tribal clan too. Oh, they don't want to talk about that in front of people. See the games, right? So again, Minnesota is home to the largest Somali diaspora in the U.S., leading many Minnesotans to feel they are not being heard in concerns about immigration policy, assimilation, and community change, right? So just keep that in mind on that situation. Give me a moment here. So you got people like, hey, hold on for a second. Y'all kind of seem like y'all kind of geared toward more open hands toward numbers of more Somalians. What's going on with that, right? And again, how many against Somalians? I'm not talking about some of the good ones, but how many of the bad Tether versions that have a hatred for Black Americans? They be looking at Black Americans like this: you Negroes, we had to flee Somalia like fleers, right? Because we couldn't get things together in Somalia. Well, it's the Gov. Shut the up. Gov looks like who again? The personnel in Somalia, right? Which are what? Black skinned. See, that old game is old and tired, and they know there's still only about a few amount of Black Americans who have caught on to that game. They're saying, wait a minute, we are not going to allow these little tether class to keep insulting us, right? We're not going to allow that. So the thing about it is, let me sit there and back anyway. So, but we start saying, forget that. I'll get to that in a little bit. Let me share my other screen for a second here, because I'm just trying to go a little bit quicker, a little bit. So which one should I show here? Hold on for a second. I'm trying to see. Give me one moment. Okay. No, almost. One moment here. I'm trying to see which one I want to go to next. Minnesota. Okay, yes. Okay. This right here, as you see already, it says about Minnesota. Make sure you can see this. Okay, good. About Minnesota. See the state bee, rusty patch bumblebee, state bird, loon, state butterfly, monarch, state constellation, Ursa Minor, state drink milk, etc., etc. Look at the state flag, right? I want you to just kind of keep that image in your mind a little bit. State flag. Look at this. Let's look at that for a second, right? The state flag was adopted on May 11, 2024. The Minnesota state flag represents many of the state's best known traits, including its many lakes and rivers and the North Star. On its left side, the flag contains a dark blue background with I'm not going to all that. You see all that. Going to all that part. In 2023, the Minnesota legislature created a state emblem redesign commission to re-image the state seal and flag. The commission received 2,128 flag design submissions from Minnesotans. From these, and how many were Somalians? From these submissions, the commission chose one finalist for a flag concept created by Andrew such and such. The concept design was altered to replace a stylized North Star with the Minnesota star featuring 8 points and removing 3 bars on the right side. The story flag was retired and the new flag was adopted on May 11, 2024. Again, keep this flag, Minnesota's new flag, in your mindset, right? Just take a look at that. All right, so let me stop that part on that. So let me go back and I want to share my screen again. So what was the reason that they were saying they wanted to change it? Let me see if I still have that. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Or did I sit there and erase that? Give me one moment here. Oh, did I erase that? Give me one moment here. I think, did I close that down? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Did I close that down? I did. No. Oh, hold on. No, I have it here. Here we go. All right, then. So what was the reason that they wanted to change their flag? Now keep this in mind too. Black Americans are told to get over the past, right? Which is an astronomical Jupiter-sized slap in the face of Black Americans to allow people to collectively say, okay, we'll forget about the past, right? Forget that crap. They don't tell Native Americans to forget about the past. They don't sit there and tell other people to forget about the past. They certainly don't tell Jewish people, right? Hey, why don't y'all come to America? Why don't y'all make things together, right? In Jewishism and stop talking about the past. That old bad Hitler man, he did a lot of stuff to Jewish people in Poland and Germany and other places. Get over the past. That was way in World War II. Get over the past. Nope, they know better than that. But Black Americans are told to get over the past. So Minnesota panel chooses new state flag featuring North Star to replace old flag seen as racist. Why is that again? They changed the flag. Minnesota panel chooses new state flag featuring North Star to replace old flag seen as racist. Okay. Minnesota's new flag should feature an 8-pointed star against the. Anyway, I'm not doing all that. But I guess I have to read this part. Minnesota's new state flag should feature an 8-pointed North Star against a dark blue background shaped like the state, with a solid blue field at the right. A special commission decided Tuesday as it picked a replacement for an older design that many Native Americans consider offensive. So we're just going to play like Minnesota only had a type of only look Native Americans. See, this kind of game keeps going on over and over again, right? Just say Native Americans, and most people say which Native Americans. And how many Native Americans get reparations, but are not told, get over the past. We had nothing to do with putting some, parentheses, some Native Americans on reservations. We had nothing to do with that. Why y'all need to have, why do y'all still need to get reparations? Nope. From various parts of the Penobscot culture, quietness. From various Tether classes, quietness. Right? From various fake people of color version, minority version who sat under that banner, right? That try to dilute Black Americans down. They quiet on that kind of stuff. The State Emblems Redesign Commission chose the final version on an 11-1 vote after finalizing a new state seal that depicts a loon, the state bird, unless the legislature rejects them. The new flag and seal will automatically become official April the 1st, 2024, when Minnesota observes Statehood Day. I'm not going to all that part. On that. So anyway, so when it boils down to it, some people felt the original flag was racist, right? Because basically had this little Anglo man that had this little, like he was plowing the land, and in the background of the flag looks like that some kind of Native American was riding off in the past, and it resembled, they say it resembled that as if the white man, right? He chased off the Native American, he took over the land, and he did everything great for the land, and those savage Native Americans, they had to go about their business, right? Oh, how racist. But the Trail of Tears, but let me back. But at the same time, again, Minnesota got their accepting this to join a union around 1850-ish, right? Which was after the Trail of Tears, which was around 1820s, 1830-ish, right? But again, people ain't, don't tell Native Americans to get over the past, right? So again, keep this in mind right here, how the flag looks. All right. So I think now I'm about to show you. Give me a second here. So now I'm about to show you. So keep this in mind. Again, that flag, the left was the original flag, the right was the adopted new flag, right? I think I want to show one last thing for a second. One quick other thing. Let me do some. Let me show something for a second. Give me one moment. Somalian. Oh, here we go. Now you see that flag I showed you earlier. This is the flag of Somalia, or the in general one, right? You have regional ones as well. Now, some people say, "Oh my goodness, it resembles." It kind of it's not quite the exact star, but there's kind of a resemblance of that situation. The flag of the Somalia, right? Just keep that in mind. Well, I don't know about that. It maybe kind of, sort of. Who knows? However, let me go back and show you the one of the last things I wanted to show you on this situation. Oh, because one of the original the first thing I showed you where that guy was making a post how certain ones, certain places, regional in Somalia, that particular new flag in Minnesota kind of has a resemblance on that situation. So, and one of them was, give me one second. One of them was this particular place right here. Bam. Gamadug or Gamudug, something like that. Officially Gamadug, state of Somalia. Look at that flag. It does have a pseudo resemblance. It may not be the same exact star, but you kind of look at this particular part too, right? Pseudo color to it, pseudo color, right? So just keep that in mind, right? Just keep this in mind, right? So that was a region in Somalia. Now let's go back and look at that flag. Bam! It does resemble that regional flag in Somalia. Woo, boy. And there are certain numbers of Somalians who are like, oh, they don't like when you sit there calling them out. And especially they don't like Black Americans who are seeing through some of their little shiesty shenanigans, scamming type situation as well, right? Let's not even talk about what's going in Minnesota with various types of fraudulent activity going on by various parts of Somalians. We don't want, let's not talk about that. But like when things will happen with George Floydness, and I'm just giving an example, in the continuous of Fernando Castillo, Sandra Bland, Anthony Jeffers. I mean, the list goes on, right? Freddie Gray, Trayvon Martin. You get Alma Arbery. You get the point. You be like, where's all these different Somalis jumping up and down at then, huh? Or saying something about, hey, we're down for the Black Americans. We're going to demand from Minnesota too, that y'all still need to give reparations to all that kind of stuff like that. What are they doing? Exit station left. What were they doing? Like some other fleers? Exit station left. Right? That's what various types of Somalians and some other tethers and etc. were doing. Some fake people of color and some fake minorities slide on the generic banner, but they try to dilute down Black Americans to try to put them inside people of color and minority nonsensical categories, right? See how they go. See the game goes. And let's see if before this Trumpism, Trumpism bad. Let's see something for a second.
So if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black, they don't have.
Did he say?
If you have a problem figuring out, whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black, it don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my.
Did Biden, was he talking about Somalians? If you didn't vote for Biden, if you got a problem, you know who to vote for, you ain't Somalians. When you talking about numbers of the hundreds of Nigerian tribes, hundreds of languages, you ain't Black or you ain't Nigerian. Was he talking about numbers of Ghanaian people, Kenyan people, Eritrean people, Ethiopian people, you get the point, etc., right? If you know who to vote for, right? You ain't, of that tribe, of that place in section of Africa, or certain parts of Europe, or certain parts of the Caribbean, you're not that personnel if you don't sit there and vote for Trump. I mean, if you vote for Trump, you don't vote for, you don't know who to vote for. You see how this game goes. Only he insulted Black Americans. Because overall, this system knows that collectively Black Americans do accept that. Collectively, they consistently accept tether hatred, tether fleer hatred, because Black Americans are not fleers. But how many again tethers, fleers have been given benefits and resources, and they look just like this at Black Americans, right? Say, dang, those Negroes, they don't flee, right? That's how I look at Black Americans. So in closing again, you saw how that flag looked, right? It does resemble one last time again, a similarity, no matter what, of however regional flags in Somalia, right? Let's see if did I close that down? No, I still have it up. Look at that flag of Gamadug, a regional part in Somalia. That looks similar. Look at that, right? Even look at that part. But it's something of a resemblance to that. It just looks similar because there is an infiltration again of various types of Somalians in politicalness in different places, in schools and Harvard colleges. You get the point. Just like some other tethers, they're putting themselves in various HBCUs and political positions and in a certain type of the infiltrating various types of per se Black supposedly organizations, supposedly, right? Oh, it's an interesting situation that they know millions of Black Americans have not figured out what these games are, with small exceptions. Now, salute to some of the Black Americans who are saying, look, no, we are saying Black Americans or foundational Black Americans, we're going to delineate, right? See, and you got all these different Fleer tethers get mad, right? Y'all being divisive, but when you start talking about this Akatas come from various sites of Africans, the hatred and calling Black folks lazy and calling Black folks, you always got your hand out, y'all talking about racism. But when Trump has been doing this thing with various parts of Nigeria, Somalia, you get the point. I mean, the list goes on, right? This, hey, y'all, hey, Black American Negroes, hey, man, go to you know what with that tactic, right? Because they really do also think Black Americans are stupid overall. You talk for last generation, you have all this Black hatred, along with already the numbers of personnel within certain parts of Panama's culture been showing hatred left and right because it's generationally ingrained. You got numbers of immigration type personnel, the ones that applies to have a hatred for Black Americans too, right? And then you throw in again numbers of personnel from certain section of Africa, the ones that applies to Black skin tether versions, certain ones in certain Caribbean places, right? That have this hatred for Black Americans. But the rarity what they don't have the same hatred toward numbers of Anglo Americans, right? They don't have a hatred for the people who are sitting there invading their countries and islands and still taking over and still pseudoly over their currencies and etc. Right? Have put themselves in control of their various types of governments in various parts of Africa and certain parts of the Caribbeans. And you get the point I'm getting at, right? They don't have the negative vitriol for them because they know their places. China going in various parts of Africa, building up different things over there, doing their Silk Road, right? Modern time, putting themselves in various ports and stuff like that, building up stadiums, building up schools over there, all this kind of stuff over there, build up industrials, build up airports, and you got various types of personnel in various parts of Africa don't do nothing. But the fleers run over to America, the ones applies to, because there are a few that's okay, right? We're not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters from Africa, some of the good brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, etc. But those are small because the system will only allow a small amount of them. So that's all I want to relay over this particular topic, how it is the hypocrisy of Black Americans are told to get over the past. But at the same time, the flag, the original flag of Minnesota was called racist, but however, what Native American they talking about. And they changed it. But when George Floyd, only a few years ago, was sitting there, his life was snuffed out by a demon, bad seed version, on George Floyd's neck for close to 10 minutes. And then you have some little animosity demon, non-Black people of color, minority, one that was right beside that little demon, Derek Chauvin, right? Not doing nothing, right? Not doing nothing. So where's all these tethers at? Where's all these fleers at? When George Floyd, where's all that demanding from politicalness, right? Where's all these various types of different minorities and people of color, non-Black version of politicalness saying, look, we demand Black Americans get an anti-American Black hate crime law. We demand that they get reparations. Where's all these little tether classes at? These slick ass minorities, slick people of color, right? Slick black skin versions, non-Black American versions, what one applies to. Where are they at? Again, I'm sure what they were doing.
Exit stage left.
Right? But at the same time, when it's flagged, when however Native Americans in Minnesota, however it is, said that's a racist flag, we want that change. But George Floyd's situation happened. Yes, you had a few people that were upset. And what came out of that overall? What came out of that? Were there major changes for Black Americans of anti-American Black, anti-Black American hate crime law? Did anything come out of that? Nope. Did reparations come out of that? Nope. But at the same time, when there's a few statues, a couple of flags that got adjusted and stuff like that, and certain type of southern places and some other places as well, there's like, oh my goodness, some of the clan member type thought pattern, certain ones within certain parts of Pontiac's culture, and the ones that want to be white adjacent, and there are flea tethers that want to be like certain ones of Pontiac's culture. Oh, they jumped up and down. Oh my goodness. That's part, y'all trying to take away part of our history. And oh my goodness, you're being woke. You see how this goes. But again, the flag was changed in Minnesota because some Native Americans said it was racist. So they weren't told to get over the path. And as I then showed you, there is a resemblance in the new Minnesota flag to sectionality or regionalness of Somalia. The insultingness of that in itself. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.